Around Dinarland. First up from BB136 on May 24, 2017. I listened to the big call replay, and my apologies to you die-hard, long-term and heavily researched Dinarians, but I had to comment. This is the first time in 2 years I heard something significant. He didn't say that something significant was going to happen, he said it's confirmed and did happen. For all you newbies out there, what Bruce said was something very significant for old-timers. Caveat, however, it seemed like not that big a deal, especially the way he tried to explain it. In reality, if true, and that's the big if again, then the RV is done. Bruce said. The lower denoms are out now in ATM machines. Tony and Raren and Bruce have always said the cards have the new rate, but that is ambiguous and simply never confirmed. But what he said today, it means in country they are trading with 1, 50, 100, 250 and 500 IQD notes or similar. Or they are using the 50, 250 and 500 IQD notes already listed as available on the CBI.IQ website in regular trade. Either way, at 1,162 dinar for $1, the 500 IQD note is about $0.43. And the 1 IQD note is $0.00086 and such lower notes aren't even usable to trade. The CBI in fact withdrew from circulation the 50 IQD note on May 1, 2015. So if it is confirmed they are using those lower notes in country to purchase and trade, the IQD must have revalued at least 1 IQD equals $0.20 or so, meaning a 500 IQD note would be worth $100 USD. 100 UQD note worth $20 USD. Of course we are looking for at least $3.86 USD per IQD or so, and then their fills, coins, will then be usable. But either way, for Iraqis to be trading with lower denoms, meaning they aren't using the 1,000, 5,000, 10,000, and 25,000 notes other than for big items, then the RV has to be done. They have not lopped or disallowed use of the 30 notes, so we would be able to redeem our notes for big cash. The darn CBI just has to update the exchange rate, which the IMF would require them to do if the IQD is to be international. Maybe Bruce was trying to say this, but bottom line is we are done and just need to have CBI change international rate. I mean, as long as I've been in this, since 2010, it's what we've been waiting for. It is so huge, if true. Bruce tried to make it sound significant, but folks, it is really significant. It's the whole enchilada. It's what we have been waiting for. Gosh, I hope it is really confirmed and true. The IQD was once thought to be the linchpin of the GCR. Let it be so. Blessings, BB136. Disclaimer: grounding reality note from Joe. Bruce at the big fantasy call has told false untruths for years. Bruce never verifies his intel rumors. Shame on him giving out false hope constantly. Next up at TNT. From Rogue. It is always darkest before the light. It's still true. It will not come in due time, but when it comes, it will be right on time. From El Murph. Hundreds of Iraqi troops were martyred over the last 7 months to rescue civilians in Mosul. Their sacrifice will never be forgotten. Remember, for most of us it's about money. For Iraq, it's about life. When the celebratory flag is raised, let's not forget the people of Iraq and what they went through to get to this point. Merlin, I just received a text that on Iraq TV Abadi announced Dinar 6-1. The person that sent the text told me several years ago that when something happens he would let me know. This is the first text in 2 years. So we will see. I will let you know if I find out anything more. From Haram, Bloomberg, Iraq mulls largest sovereign oil hedging deal, topping Mexico. Baghdad considering hedging as much as 25% of its production. At KTFA. From Blue Dog, my ramblings. Nothing more. Just opinions. From Blue. Maliki always faints. When something is not going his way, the USA sent a delegation before the Saudi Arabian get-together, thinking back and not knowing all that was talked about. I think there were strong emotions about Iran's influence in Iraq and that this needed to be dealt with ASAP. So here we have Maliki limping off to Iran again, and they will protect him in my opinion. Oh, by the way, I think the Drano worked. News articles, in that old Saudi pipeline from Iraq. Few years ago they were doing minor repairs to it. LOL, think they knew this day may come. But more than that, the Saudis want a deal. To flush oil through the old pipe but get rid of all Iranian influence in your country. Bye bye Maliki, and many others. The power that was in that summit in Riyadh made Iran flinch, and they still have their chests out. But wait till they find out the total ramifications. So now we look why the president of Iraq was sent to the summit instead of Abadi. And it makes sense, like Frank said. Until you remove the Iranian influence and some figures, people, from your country, talk to the hand, we will try to trust you Abadi if you do this ASAP per what Trump delegation told you. In my opinion, remember, Trump sent in many folks along with his son-in-law, and he is powerful. So as we see all these things happening, when do you think the currency reform will take place? As soon as the rats leave, like Frank was talking about, rats, and they are leaving fast. Just my thoughts. Blue. From Samson, Iraq. Arab 5th in gold reserves 10/03/24/05/2017. Iraq exports ranked 5th in gold reserves, according to the latest report released by the World Gold Council, which measures the period until the end of the first quarter of this year. Iraq in progress on the classification of Kuwait, Egypt, Qatar, Jordan, Syria, Morocco, United Arab Emirates, Tunisia, Bahrain, and Yemen. Saudi Arabia topped the Arab countries the size of reserves to 322.9 tons gold, followed by Lebanon, Algeria, Libya. The reserves of gold is maintained by the central bank as a store of value and guarantee to redeem promises to pay depositors and holders of securities or trading peers, or to secure a currency. Used gold reserves almost exclusively, albeit rarely, in the settlement of international transactions. From Don 961, let's add one more economic dude to the posse, advocating for implementation of the monetary policy, and a strong, stable dinar currency. Right on, brother. From Samson, banking expert calls for the activation of monetary policy. May 24, 2017, called banking expert Samir Naziri, the Iraqi central bank, to activate its monetary policy to support the private banking system, and re-examine the policies and lending departments of credit risk, with an emphasis on some of the observations studied in the framework of the strategy adopted in the coming years. He al-Nasiri, that the implementation of the strategy of the Central Bank of Iraq for the coming years requires a lesson set of observations, including monitoring the implementation of future policies of cash until the year 2020 with the contribution of the banking sector in gross domestic product, GDP, as well as the search for new policies to achieve this goal, and allows the government and private banks to participate in the growth and investment in accordance with the mechanisms and policies that are applicable, and without imposing strict policies, and to give adequate elasticities. He added that it is necessary to seek to address the apparent gap between the fiscal policies of the state and monetary policies adopted by the central bank and the requirements of the anti-inflationary pressures, in addition to reducing current spending and coordination in the plans and programs that save the Iraqi economy from financial collapses. He also pointed al-Nasiri to the importance of activating the monetary policy to support the private banking system, and the revision of policies and lending mechanisms of credit risk management in the granting of credit to small and medium loans, in addition to investment in production and investment sectors that achieve cash flow, and revive the economic cycle, which contributes to economic development and diversify the financial resources of the general budget. In the context of the sale of the dollar process that the central being organized, Naziri called for the minute follow-up instructions for a window of foreign currency issued this year, and the need to define the role of banks in the mediation between the customer and between the central as well as to determine the responsibility of the Ministries of Trade, Finance, and Planning in the offenses committed by some customers, and not only load responsibility for banks. He stressed the importance of the adoption of boards of directors in the strategy of banks' operational risks and implementation, and review debt doubtful according to the list of guidelines, reelasticities, and periods of time for additional banks to liquidate these debts accruing mostly to civilian migration from their provinces for security reasons beyond their control. And called for the restructuring of the particular government banking sector, with an emphasis on the need to study the allocation of some of its departments, and to activate the operating banks to expand their banking services and diversify, particularly to increase credit and investment share in a balanced manner with total revenues into these banks, an effective pillar of economic growth, provided that the move away from monopoly some banking operations and the withholding of government activities and public institutions for private banks. He added that there is also the need to develop the Iraqi market for securities money and support, and to find the means and tools that drive towards the lifting of the market and companies' index prices, in line with its assets and standards of production and profits, and to prevent speculation that harm the Iraqi assets' disproportionate real value, calling for the establishment of a fund or a private portfolio certificates of deposit issued by banks wishing to address the deterioration of stock prices. The request to add a new bank management current investment climate in the market to promote and increase the size of the deposits of banks leads to increased investment activities in all economic sectors and thus achieve a positive return for investors. He said al-Nasiri the monetary policy of leading efforts to achieve economic stability and stabilizing the exchange rate rates that the national economy will also increase the strength and effectiveness to meet the economic challenges of economic policy, and believes that the achievement of reserves of foreign exchange, which currently stands at about $49 billion, stabilize the Iraqi dinar exchange rate against the dollar is one of the things necessary, pointing out that the foreign currency held by the central window had a positive role in maintaining an appropriate level of the exchange rate and install it. He pointed out that the CBI has taken many steps to expand the list of available instruments of monetary policy and to cover the reserve required to include government deposits, and the granting of facilities on deposits maturing in a short period in order to allow banks to manage their liquidity more effectively. He added that the relative stability of the rates of the exchange rate of tight monetary policy and the stability of the financial system, as well as reducing inflationary phenomenon and to control the levels of liquidity and management, and to encourage banks to move towards the market, of the most important tools that have been achieved in monetary policy from 2004 to 2000.